Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH joining us today from the Board of Fatherhood Commission is Jeff Kemp. He was representing his organization, Men Huddle. Jeff, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, James, it's good to be with you.
So what is Men Huddle?
Well, I've been, ever since I retired from football back in 92, my mission was to kind of make life better for kids. And I did that by starting a nonprofit to strengthen families. And I've worked in that kind of field of nonprofits, fatherhood and marriage strengthening, family strengthening for 30 years. And ran an organization. Then I worked for a large one, Family Life. And then 5 years ago, since speaking is probably the primary strength of mine, and I was feeling a lot of kind of traction and joy in speaking to men, I resigned from the organization I was in and decided I'd just go full time doing men's conferences, men's retreats, speaking to men. I do some marriage conferences and some leadership and team training and coaching some CEOs, but largely around their soul, their relationships, their marriage, their relationships with their kids. So Men Huddle is my virtual organization under which I do my speaking. But more importantly, it's a mission. And it's a mission to help men regain friendship and teamwork so that they live together with a couple close buddies, a couple deep friends, and we get a lot more kind of objective input on our life, and it makes us a better husband and dad, better leader, better able to handle issues in life, easier to grow in our faith when there's some other dude that's talking to you and working with you and praying with you. So that's what Men Huddle is. It's my mission to reach and strengthen men through friendship and my outreach of speaking.
Why do men feel so isolated?
Isolation comes with busyness. Isolation comes with insecurity. Isolation comes with a comparison culture, kind of a competitive comparison culture. And then it gets exacerbated by a digital culture, which kind of thins out the connection of people and makes everyone kind of compare even more, to what other people have that you see on their Instagram account or their LinkedIn account. We see a lot of criticism. That's kind of the nature of news. The left criticizes the right criticizes the left. Sports talk radio, chews up those pro athletes that are paid way too much money. We jump on and off the bandwagon. All of that combines with a man's basic sense that the main thing I fear is failure. And I don't want to be looked at in a way that says, man, he doesn't have what it takes. He's not the real thing. He's a failure. I don't respect him. And that stuff makes you kind of shy away from putting everything about your life on the table because you know how imperfect you are. But when you put some busyness and having some kids and a wife and a job and your boss is sending you emails at 9:30 p.m. on Saturday night, you just get busy and you pull away from the deep connection to other men. And I'm not talking about 50 other men. I'm talking about, 2 or 3 close friends who can know you. And that's what ends up being isolation. And, there's isolation in marriage too. You could be sleeping in the same bed as your wife, but be a million miles away from each other emotionally. Because you haven't opened up your hearts, you haven't been honest, you haven't been connecting and talking, being real with each other. But for men, isolation happens because we get busy, we're insecure, we don't want to look like we're a schmuck, and so we kind of stop opening up with other guys, and we stop meeting regularly and connecting with guys.
So how do men overcome those barriers to friendship?
I think they get intentional. They get intentional with the business plan. They get intentional with their golf game and go take lessons, etc. They get real intentional about the car they want to buy, where they want to go in their career. if we want a great life, we need to have some teammates. And by teammates, I mean deep friends. And I would like to help men understand that there's really different layers of friendship. The casual one, all those people in your phone, a good friend who you like, you got some affinity for them, but you don't know a whole lot about each other. You just talk about the usual stuff. Nothing's really different. You talk about sports and work and maybe, what happened with politics or the weather or something. And then there's some strong friends. I call that level 4, the fourth level of friendship. It's getting deeper. And some guys don't have any of these, but this is the guy you'd call at 2 a.m. if you were in a crisis. You've been through a couple of wars together. You know some secrets. You've been open and honest with each other. But you maybe don't see each other or talk a whole lot. And then level 5 friendship is intentional, purposeful, committed. It's safe and secure, and you define it as confidential, and we're going to be loyal to each other. And you say, hey, there's a purpose to this. We want to become better men. So let's support each other as friends. We can laugh, we can chill together, but we should probably connect every week to talk about what's really important in our lives. And the secrets start going away. You tell each other your stories, and then you start processing what's going on, and you help each other. And to develop that type of friendship, a lot of guys are kind of fearful. Hey, will I be betrayed? Will I be exposed? What will this guy think of me? Can I find the right guy? And my advice to guys is throw the idea out there with a friend. And if he really says, yeah, I want that, you're with the right guy. If he's not so sure, then maybe you go on to someone else. And I developed a men huddle playbook for deep level 5 friendship that guys can download for free. It's my gift to them. And if they share it with a friend, you read it, I think, James.
Yes.
If they share it with a friend and the guy says, yeah, that sounds cool. I'd like to do that. Doesn't sound too complicated, but it's intentional. Yeah, let's build some depth in our friendship. Then you can start connecting. And I recommend weekly with a phone call or a Zoom. Obviously, being live is great, but you don't have to meet live to talk about what's most important in your life and process your life together. So you just make a choice. The guy needs to make a choice. Think about who are 2 guys that I want to do this with, and start connecting weekly. And I call it huddling. I just use the language of a football huddle.
So it sounds like that type of information that our listeners need to know to strengthen their friendships would be in the Quick Start Playbook. Totally,
yeah. And if they go to menhuddle.com, there's a pop-up and there's a form there where if they give me their email, I'll send them the Men Huddle Playbook. It's only about 10 pages of reading. It's really quick, and it's bullet points and easy stuff to share with a friend to kind of outline, what is friendship after all? And what's a deep friendship? And what are some of the characteristics of it? How can we make this really work and be strong? So that's my invitation to guys. Go to menhuddle.com, download that playbook, look it over, think of a couple guys that you'd like to deepen your friendship with, share it with them. And if they're not the right guy, find some other guy and go forward. Get your teamwork going. Get back to friendship. It feels awesome. I've got a huddle with Pete and Greg. We meet every week and have for 9 years. And it changes my life. It makes me a better husband. And there's some things as a dad that I would have done stupid that I don't because I process it ahead of time with Pete and Greg.
Yeah, when you gave me the link, I was like, oh, shoot, this is going to be one of those things. I'm going to have a 50-page questionnaire. It's going to be long-winded. It's going to take all night to do this. No, it was nice and easy. Like you said, it's name, email address, and you send it to you. And it was nice and simple, nice and easy to read, and I definitely learned a lot. One of the things that I thought was most interesting was your self X-ray.
Yeah. The reason I put the self X-ray in there, I picked this up from a group that I was a part of years ago. It was a group of business guys who set up lots of small, I guess they were huddles, but they were forums, I think they call it. Like 5 or 6, 7 guys would meet every week They were different guys running businesses and stuff. And they did this thing called the check-in. And it was like a dashboard of how's your life doing. You know, you look at your car, you see the fuel level and the oil level and the heat level and RPMs. It was kind of like that. And it urged you to rate yourself 0 to 10. So I took that idea for a group of guys and I kind of adjusted it to one guy. Because the question that we ask when I get together with my guys each week is super simple. What's the most important thing in your life that you need to talk about today? Well, a lot of times you're not sure exactly what's going on to know what's most important. So the self X-ray gives you a quick calibration. How's my relationship 0 to 10 with God? How's my relationship 0 to 10 with my wife, if you're married? 0 to 10, how's my relationship with my kids? How's my relationship with myself, like personally? Am I healthy? Am I sleeping? Do I have any balance? Am I healthy? 0 to 10, how's my relationship with work? 0 to 10, how much am I struggling with a risk area or a temptation area? A lot of guys struggle with lust and looking at women and maybe pornography or, you know, temptations of sex. Some of us struggle with pride, some with anger, some with, I need 4 glasses of wine every night to settle down, and that becomes 5, and that becomes 6. So you figure out what's my risk area, my temptation area, 0 to 10. How am I doing with that area this week? And is my life making a difference for the long term? Am I just living for me, or am I making a difference to make the world better and to please God, which is a Christian perspective that I bring to it. We're meant to live for a bigger cause. So you just give yourself a quick rating on those things, and then you kind of sense, okay, I need to talk about my marriage today, or it's this thing at work. So that's what the self X-ray is. It helps you kind of take a quick objective view of yourself to know what's going on, and it makes it easier to know what to talk to your friends about.
So the personal is more of a mental or physical health?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Am I mentally healthy? Am I physically healthy? You know, it could be I've been eating terrible. It could be I'm not sleeping well. I have no regularity to my schedule. It could be I'm out of whack time-wise. You know, I'm working 75 hours a week. On an airplane all the time. I just don't have balance. Maybe I'm doing all reading for work and no pleasure reading. I have no recreation, you know, no rejuvenation time. Whatever brings you kind of balance and health. If you're missing that, you want to rate yourself low, you know, down there in the 2-3 range. If you feel balanced, healthy, you're sleeping, you're eating well, there's kind of a natural rhythm to your life, there's some balance, that's closer to an 8 or a 9 or a 10.
Nice. Yeah, because that was one of the ones when I was going through it. All the other ones I kind of knew the answer to, you know, where to put myself, but I wasn't sure on that one. So I appreciate the clarification. So now I can evaluate that better.
Another big thing that I think there's 2 huge things, dominant things that shape a man's life. One of them is their view of God. 2 is their view of themselves. Your view of God matters because you're either living for 80 years and then you die and it's all over, or there's a bigger picture to things. And you were made by someone, and even when your body dies, your soul's going to keep going. Well, if that's true, and I believe it is, that there is a God, there is a creator, and there's a source of good, and we all know there's evil in the world, and God wasn't the inventor of evil. I need more good. I need more love. I need more forgiveness. I need more hope. And if you don't have an accurate view of God, you're not going to live with an accurate view of eternity, and that you'll make different decisions. And then if you don't have an accurate view of yourself, you're going to struggle because of your insecurities, your pride, your control, your fear. You won't relate well to others if you don't really know who you are. And so it really comes back to your identity. Do you really know who you are? And frankly, if you know you were created by a loving, perfect God, and you know that you're really valuable to God, but you also know that you're messed up and broken and have a whole bunch of, you know, traits of imperfection and selfishness in you, and you need some help, and you need a solution. Well, then that helps you to be more humble and to tap into a relationship with God to be a better man, husband, dad, leader, employee, friend. So those two things, your view of God and your view of yourself, make a huge difference. And I think we get a lot of help from those things when we hang out with a couple close friends and talk life through. Not to mention, go to the source, read the book of John, find out who God says he is. And as for your identity, I believe that identity is received in relationship, not earned in performance. And that may sound funny coming from an NFL player or former player, where identity was all about, do you perform well? Do you make the team? Are you first string? What are your statistics? How much did they pay you? Did you guys win the Super Bowl? Did you, get cut the next year? Well, shoot, if that was true, I became a quarterback one day when I made the team, and I stopped being a quarterback, and thus I lost my whole identity when I got cut and kicked out of the NFL. And I think that most guys are measuring their identity and therefore their confidence based on how they're performing, how they're achieving, how they appear. It could be work, it could be athletics, it could be adventure, it could be, are they popular with women? It could be money. A lot of people define themselves by that. Style, brand, image. But at the end of the day, none of those things are secure. And I think a man needs to be secure to be his best self.
I really feel after reading the playbook that could be something that could help men get more involved with their churches. When I would go to my church events, they would be at the services, but they wouldn't be at the other events, it felt like.
Well, I think church kind of got framed up a little bit, especially as churches get larger, as they have in America, as a place where there's the emotion side of singing, and which a lot of men maybe don't love to sing, or the songs aren't easy to sing. And then there's the intellectual side of listening to a sermon. So it's like more school. And a lot of guys aren't really into the left brain knowledge part of God. They'd like to experience something. They'd like something tangible. And that comes in relationship with other people that are pursuing God and believing God, which is why a small group or a friendship group or a mission trip to Mexico or something gets men's attention a lot more. But churches haven't really figured out men very well. And sometimes they'll have events, and the events seem like that's just an individual thing, and the guys might fear that they're going to listen to some guy talk about how to be a great Christian, and they're not going to measure up, and they don't really like that feeling. So my prayer, my dream is that friendship would become the foundation, the starting point, the entry point for churches to help men appreciate, enjoy, and benefit from being a part of church. And gosh, if every church was a place where guys could find and make a friend because they explained what friendship is, and all the guys there are committed to have a couple close friends who go deep with each other on a weekly basis, that would change the lives of those men. That would change the families of those men. That would change those men's involvement at that church. They'd be more a part of it rather than just a consumer who attends occasionally. And I think the church would seem more credible and would make a bigger impact in the community. So, you know what? This isn't a strategy I came up with. If you go back 2,000 years, the whole world got changed by Jesus and 12 men. And he said, "You are my friends. I call you my friends." And then he helped them become friends with each other because they were just normal dudes. They had pride, they had ego, they had insecurities, they had, tempers. But he changed them into friends of his, and that changed their character. And then he helped them be friends of each other, and he sent them out on their mission to tell the world there's good news. Jesus came. I'm fixing this broken world. Trust in me. He sent them out 2 by 2. There you go. There's teamwork again, James. So I don't think men who love to think of themselves as the Lone Ranger are designed to be Lone Rangers. I think we're designed to be teams, and friendship is crucial to that. And you know what? Fathering is very much in need of teamwork, because you have a kid born to you, and all of a sudden you say, "Oh my gosh, I'm a dad. What do I do?" Well, I'm going to do a little bit of what my dad did, but I don't want to do most of what my dad did. That's not much of a game plan, to copy a little bit of what he did and not copy the rest. You actually need a blueprint. And I think God wants us to go look to him, to what kind of father he is, check out in the Bible what's the nature of God, what's he say about fathers, and then go to other men. Go to good, men that you respect, dads, and ask them to lunch and, hey, give me some guidance. And with your close friends, process the things you're doing as a dad. That makes me better. I got a lot of help from mentors, and I get a lot of help from my friends, and you'll learn manhood and fatherhood in the company of other men. So that's why teamwork is so central to being a man. But ironically, our pride and fear keeps us away from that many times.
So that's why I think your two organizations work so well together, your Men Huddle and then the Fatherhood Commission. Tell us a little bit about that mission of the Fatherhood Commission.
Well, the Fatherhood Commission the word commission implies a gathering, a network of many groups that work to strengthen fatherhood. So we have about 250 partners, and maybe 150 of them are leaders of organizations, and another 100 of them are leaders in other spheres of influence, media or business or movie making, education. And what the Fatherhood Commission does is we convene those leaders once a year for a summit. We do it down at a Chick-fil-A retreat center north of Atlanta called Windshape. And our mission statement is summed up in 3 words. We inspire the strengthening of fatherhood. We network fathering organizations and fatherhood leaders so they can collaborate and work well. And we equip. We train them with best practices. We encourage them to remember to focus on your marriage. Don't get so carried away with your mission to help other dads that your own family struggles. And then we equip them with strategies and resources to work together and to do better at their mission focus, at hiring, at running their board, at fundraising, at content that they can use to reach dads. This last year we learned about the power of emotion, and that we really need to let people tap into their emotion if we want to change their lives, because there's a big iceberg of emotion under most of the dads that we're working with. And if we just talk to them about ideas and principles, but we don't get into the emotion of, wow, are you wounded from your dad? Have you not forgiven him? Are you lacking confidence and afraid of being a dad, and you're just kind of faking it? We got to tap into that. So our mission is to convene, and then we inspire, network, and equip fathering groups so that we can all go out and do a better job of training, mentoring, encouraging, and promoting fatherhood.
I really was fascinated by how it talks about it's not just our relationship with our Father, but our Father God that needs to shape our ways of being a parent.
Yes. Your sense of yourself, as I said, who you think you are, makes a huge difference in the way you relate to a son or a daughter. And your sense of self, as I said earlier when I was talking about identity, is shaped not by how you perform and achieve and all the trappings around you, not by your resume. Your identity is actually received from whoever made you and from God, who defines you, and through Christ, who paid a price on a cross to forgive people of their sins so they can recover from the ugly things they've done in life that they feel shame and guilt over. So if you have a great relationship with your Heavenly Father and you understand Him accurately, and then you can understand yourself accurately, it can help you overcome being a guy that didn't have his dad in his life, or a dad who comes to the Little League field, like a dad that I was coaching this little kid one time. This guy stepped out of the car. He didn't walk on the field like all the other dads did to, throw the ball or pat his kid on the back and walk him off the practice field. He just yells, "Hey, doofus, get over here." Man, I was so mad. But I was thinking, that kid is being called doofus by his dad. That is so damaging. That is so hurtful. That's so damaging to his identity. But you know what? He's not a doofus. And I told the rest of the coaches, our job is to tell him he's valuable, he's important, he's a stud, he has what it takes, he's important on this team. And we showed that to him by encouraging him, praising him, putting our arm around him, loving on him. We were trying to fill in the gap that his personal dad wasn't filling well. But you know who fills that gap perfectly for all of us is our Heavenly Father that made us. And Jesus described that Heavenly Father. He told a story about a prodigal son and a stiff, kind of rule-following, angry older brother. And the prodigal son went out and took the money and ran and went wild. Partied, slept around, but then he came to the end of himself and was broke, and he kind of came back with his tail between his legs. And his father was standing on the porch and jumped off the porch and ran to him and put his arms around him and said, "You were lost, but now you're found. Welcome back. Here's a coat. Here, you put a ring on your finger. Here's some new sandals. Let's have a barbecue and kill the fatted calf and celebrate it." And his older brother didn't want to come to the party. He was mad that the father forgave the younger brother. And the father said, everything I've always had has been yours. And now your brother who was lost is home. Come with me, please. Come to the party. Let's celebrate. We're a family. That is a great picture of a father. The father didn't change his standards and say, "Son, I agree with you partying and, sleeping around and messing up your life and taking my money and squandering it. I don't agree with that." He didn't say that. He didn't say it's all good. But he also didn't go scold him and run after him. He didn't panic. He just stood his ground, said, "I'm here," welcomed his son home, didn't say, "I told you so," didn't shame him, forgave him, and brought him back in to a party and the community of his family. And he didn't even get mad at his older brother. That is what the Heavenly Father, the Father of Jesus, is like. And that was proven because, this world is so rebellious and does things our own way and kind of say, "Hey, God, we don't need you. We'll do it our own way." And yet he still sent Jesus Christ, his son, and let us crucify him to forgive all the sin and welcome us back to him. Jesus' job was to show us what the Heavenly Father is like. There's a movie called Show Me the Father. You can download it, showmethefathermovie.com. It's phenomenal. It shows what this vertical Father is like. And when you learn how loving and gracious and true and forgiving, kind he is, and that he wants a relationship with us, and Jesus is the pathway to that relationship, well, then it lets you heal some of the horizontal fatherhood problems. Let go of the past. Forgive your dad. My football buddy, Steve Largent, Hall of Famer, his dad left his family when he was 7 years old, never showed up for the rest of Steve's life until Steve was in pro football, and then the dad asked for tickets to games. And Steve got him tickets and hotel rooms, but when the football career ended, the dad stopped, connecting. And there was some bitterness there. But Steve had a deep faith. He understood who the father was. His wife encouraged him. And one of the close friends of Steve, who he huddled with weekly, said, "Steve, I think you need to deal with that wound of what your dad did to you and the bitterness you're holding on to." And sure enough, Steve did deal with it. And he realized how much Father God had forgiven himself personally. He went to his dad and apologized for not being the best son, even though Steve had about 1% of the responsibility in the relationship fracture. And then his dad kind of apologized, and they healed their relationship to some degree. And Steve didn't have that bitterness for the rest of his life, and he was set free. So when you know who your Heavenly Father is, it sets you free to expect less from your earthly father. And many of them didn't get fathered well, which is why they didn't father us well. But we got to change the cycle. Start today. Apologize to your kids. Re-engage. Become the dad from this day forward that you wished you had, and that Father God is to you, and that you want to be to your kids.
Well, Jeff, I believe our listeners have learned a lot today. I know I have. It's been a great experience talking with you, and I'm definitely going to use the playbook in my life and to change my life for the better. So I want to say thank you. Before we let you go, where on social media, where on the web, where can our listeners find out more about you?
Well, again, they can get the playbook for Level 5 Friendship at menhuddle.com. And I've got a website there, menhuddle.com, that has a lot of resources and stuff. But let's send them to fatherhoodcommission.com. And there's a website with a tool that you can pick any topic of fathering and find all our partners and drill down to find manhood journey or urban ones or fatherhood for single dads. Just a ton of great groups. So that's at fatherhoodcommission.com. And we've also got a Facebook page for Fatherhood Commission where they can see some great dialogue and great content, some videos and stuff. So those two things, menhuddle.com and fatherhoodcommission.com, as well as the Facebook page for Fatherhood Commission.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us.
Great to be with you, James. And I just want to thank all the dads out there for what they're doing and encourage them not to beat themselves up, but to plug in for the future and be the best dad they can. Make sure you build a deep friendship or two to support yourself in the way, too.
Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom has products in stock and available to take home today. With 5 stores and almost 40 years in business, they are Ohio's appliance experts, and they help you to get the right product at the right price with a huge inventory. You can save 30 to 60% every day on everything from Bosch and Viking to LG, GE, and KitchenAid at unbeatable savings and in stock. Plus, Mattress Kingdom inside Appliance Factory has everything from Tempur-Pedic and Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and Dream Cloud mattresses in stock. Stop by any one of Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom's 5 Ohio locations today or visit online at appliancefactory.com.
Good morning, Dream House Nation. James Lewis of the Dream House joining us today, Jeff Allan, to talk all about his big upcoming performance at the Funny Bone on Sunday, June 29th at 7 p.m. Jeff, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So what was life like growing up in Illinois?
In Illinois. Well, back, I was in the 70s. It was, I lived in a small town, a little slice of redneck heaven called Sauk Village. So it was the era of prefab homes. So they built them somewhere else and then laid them on a foundation. So Rome might not have been built in a day, but Sauk Village certainly was.
So what type of student were you?
Me? Oh, I was awful. I hated going to school. If it wasn't for baseball, I probably would have never went. That's the kind of the title of the new tour is 2.0. It's in honor of, I graduated with a 2.0 GPA. So I'm honoring the middle dwellers, the C students. We're the ones that run the nation. We just show up and go to work. We don't get involved in anything else.
Nice. I thought it was like a revamped tour or you had changed something.
Yeah.
No, it's on honor of the GPA. That is awesome.
The 2.0 GPAs. We're reaching out to all of the middle dwellers, the people the underachievers is what I like to call them. I'm the king of the underachievers.
So you were a big baseball fan. How long did you play?
Oh, I played up into college. I guess I did. I found alcohol when I was 15 or 16, and by the time I hit college, I was done with baseball. Really, I was drinking at the afternoon before the workouts. So I lasted a year in college, and then that was it. I really haven't touched a baseball since, but I loved the game of baseball growing up.
So what was it like getting started in comedy in the late 70s in Chicago?
Well, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was free. I mean, you'd be able to talk about anything you wanted to talk about. Nobody cared. As long as it was funny, they and not malicious. I mean, you weren't allowed to be malicious, but blacks talked about whites talked about blacks, everybody talked about everybody, the cultural differences and stuff. It was fun. 70s to me was a great time in comedy, because coming out of the 60s, where there were so many restrictive mores on what comics were allowed to talk about, and Carlin and Pryor broke those barriers, along with Lenny Bruce started it. So I think what we're going to see coming up is another renaissance in comedy. I think people are tired with the whole woke thing and the restrictions, and just let the comics talk about what they want to talk about. If you don't think it's funny, don't laugh, or change the channel and move on. But that's kind of what it was like in the 70s. Nobody really thought about, the stuff they think about today. I mean, there certainly wasn't any cancel culture, that's for sure. So it was the First Amendment was alive and well in the 70s.
So it sounds like it was quite a free and liberating time.
It was a great time. In hindsight, again, I didn't know any better. It's like, but now in looking back, I gradually watched the parameters of what I was allowed to talk about change. Started about the mid 80s. I used to talk a lot about my drinking. You talk about what you know, and I was drinking a lot. So, and then I would do drunk driving jokes, and all of a sudden, about the mid 80s, people weren't laughing at them anymore. So you could think, well, what's going on? So you just stopped doing them because nobody's laughing. I mean, that was always the gauge for me. And I got to talking about my wife, and then all of a sudden, people were jumping up in the middle of my show and screaming, why don't you talk about men the way you talk about women? And I'm going, I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about woman, I married.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, I got, you live with her, you talk about her too, so just, you can't take that away from me. If I can't talk about my life, and then I'm done. I got nothing left to say. I gave up cultural comedy, comedy. I gave up a bunch of stuff. But if I can't talk about my family and my life and how it relates to me, then I'm done. So I told him to shut up. And it's worked out pretty well. People have left me alone as far as that goes.
So who were some of the comedians that inspired you?
Well, Cosby was probably the first one. And it was more, it's interesting. My father, we didn't know this, but he probably suffered from bipolar. He would hole up in his room for weeks and never come out, except to eat. And then there were those times where we'd sit around the hi-fi and listen to Cosby albums, and to hear my father laugh was just what I choose to remember about my childhood. So Cosby, I thought, boy, if I could do that, that would be great, And then I got into Carlin in my high school years, and then Pryor and Steve Martin, and I really just enjoyed it all. But Cosby probably, that's why I'm a storyteller, and I find, for me, the humor I like to laugh at is stuff that starts with the truth and then gets to the absurd,
So is that what inspired you to work clean, the original Cosby albums?
No, actually, it was interesting. I wanted to be Richard Pryor, and I was able to imitate Richard Pryor because I was a white suburban kid, so I didn't do the impersonation very well, so nobody knew I was doing Pryor. But no, I wanted to be Richard Pryor, and I wasn't until I had a family and my fourth grade son, we got called to school, and he called his teacher in F&B, and we, when you hear that come out of your child's mouth, I looked at the teacher and said, I'd like to be able to look you in the eye with all seriousness and tell you I have no idea where that child heard that kind of language. But the truth was that's, the way we kind of talked at home. So anyway, I told my wife we need to curb our language. And we were just starting to come to our faith at that point. So we were making some changes. But that was, and I decided, I wonder if I could work clean, And I saw Dice Clay one night on a special, and I looked at my wife and said, the next guy who's going to break through the pack to some semblance of fame is going to have to be dirtier than that. And there's no way I could do that. So I just went the other way. And I think God was preparing me for the life he was choosing for me after coming to the faith. But the clean was just coming out of my kid's mouth. I was like, holy cow, that's not becoming. And that was all on me and my wife. So we owned it and cleaned it up. And I paid him a quarter for every cuss word that came out of my mouth. And that's how I funded their college.
Nice. So what are some of the topics that you cover on your current tour?
Pretty much the same kind of stuff, just different ways of looking at it. Again, the 2.0, the GPA, we talk a little bit about that. I come up with, I open the show with COVID taught me socialism doesn't work. The richest nation in the entire world was out of toilet paper in 3 days, so, which I don't even get. I mean, it's like the CDC comes out and says it's a severe respiratory illness, and the entire nation went, well, we need toilet paper. And I go, I think you're wiping the wrong end.
Yeah.
I said, socialist countries, they always run out of toilet paper. There's always lines around the block for toilet paper. And then I figured out that's why they starve their people. Nothing in, nothing out, so you don't need the toilet paper. And then I look at the crowd and go, I'm a 2.0, and I came up with that. So that's kind of the theme, I come up with solutions to our problems, and they're really not solutions, but anyway, as a thinking man, I'd like to think I have solutions.
So what's your favorite thing about performing in front of a live audience?
Oh my God, the energy. It's just, there's nothing like it. I remember the first time I delivered a line and got, they say an alcoholic, which I am, remembers their first drink with vivid detail. And I can remember that with vivid detail. And I can tell you with vivid detail, the first line I ever delivered, they got a laugh. And I stole it from a comic named Tom Dreesen. I was bombing every night, and I decided, all right, well, I want to see if it's me or the material. So I took a line from a comic that was successful, and it got a huge laugh, and I thought, okay, it's the material, if I can write better material. So it's just the energy. There's nothing like live performance, nothing. I just booked a role in a movie. I'm going to be out for 2 weeks filming this thing, and it'll be a year and a half before this movie gets released. It's not the same thing.
Are you allowed to say what the movie is?
I think I don't know if it has a working title or not. It's an independent Christian film, and I read the script. It's actually it's pretty good. I really enjoyed it. So I probably could be allowed to. I just don't know that if there is a working title for it.
You're our second Christian actor we've had on the show. We had Kevin Sorbo on to talk some of his roles that he's had in Christian movies. Yeah. How often do you exercise?
I try to 4 or 5 times a week. I've been doing yoga lately. Our pastor said that don't call it yoga, call it Christian stretching. So because he has a thing about yoga, I go, well, I'm pretty solid in my faith. I'm not worried about being converted to namaste, but it helps stretch the frame. But 4 or 5 days a week, I try to work out. With the travel schedule I have, I'd probably be dead if I didn't do something.
Tell us about the pride you take in being a father.
Wow, it's interesting. I was gone a lot when my boys were growing up. I struggled to be part of their lives, and I have a lot of regrets as far as that kind of stuff goes. But there's nothing like it when we get together now. At least, I had a hard time with my father when I hit my 30s. I kept in contact with him. If it wasn't for golf, we probably wouldn't have had a conversation for years. But we used to talk about the golf tournaments and stuff. And I have a better relationship with my sons than I had with my father. But in hindsight, I would make some definite changes. I have young fathers come to me all the time and go, do you have any advice? Yeah, the only finite thing you have is time. You can make an infinite amount of money in this world, but you can't produce more time. And your children know, when you have time to spend with them and you're not. And that's the one regret I have, is that I didn't make enough time for them. But I don't think there's any better job out there. It warms my heart when I see fathers and sons at events and stuff together. And my show, we're trying to bring families out. The whole goal of Working Clean in general was to to get 3 generations out to shows, because I don't know about you growing up, but I grew up in the 70s and the late 60s. The only thing we did as a family was we'd go to the Ice Capades as a family, and everybody hated it equally. So there was no joy. It was just, get in the car, we're going, shut up, your mom wants to see America's Sweetheart, Dorothy Hamill, get in the car. So we'd all get in the car, pile in, and we'd just go, why are we here? We hate this. So going to church, everything in church is separated by group. They have stuff for the seniors, they have stuff for the marrieds, the singles, the children, So I thought, wow, if we can get people out together in a club, and we're starting to see more and more. We've got some clubs that will lower the age to 13, some to 16. Most of them, try to keep it at 21 just because the liability if something happens. But that's the goal, is to get families together and laughing together. That would be great. It's a good night out.
That is awesome. That is a great goal. I was going to say our listeners are excited about your big event, Sunday, June 26th, 7 p.m. at the Funny Bone in Liberty Township. Before we let you go, Jeff, where on social media, where on the web, where can they find out more about you? JeffAllenComedy.com is the website, and then you can go to my fan page at Jeff Allen on Facebook and sign up for that. We post. Instagram is JAllenComedy and at JAllen Comedy, and Twitter. I don't do much on Twitter. To me, it's the bathroom wall of society. It's it's where all of the negative cynics hang out. So we do post calendars and schedules and things, and we try to post funny videos. Try not to do any politics. Probably 99.9% of what I post. I didn't realize that. I made a crack about Pete Buttigieg going to maternity leave, and I didn't realize that would cause such a stir. I just said, my wife was in labor for 33 hours with our second son. If I'd have looked at her after 33 hours of labor and said, wow, I'm exhausted, I need a month off, she would have shot me. Now you need a month off. So. Sounds great. Well, it has been a pleasure having you on the show with us today. Well, thanks, man.
Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom has products in stock and available to take home today. With 5 stores and almost 40 years in business, they are Ohio's appliance experts, and they help you to get the right product at the right price with a huge inventory. You can save 30 to 60% every day on everything from Bosch and Viking to LG, GE, and KitchenAid at unbeatable savings and in stock. Plus, Mattress Kingdom inside Appliance Factory has everything from Tempur-Pedic and Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and DreamCloud mattresses in stock. Stop by any one of Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom's 5 Ohio locations today, or visit online at appliancefactory.com.
Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH joining us today from Tune Up Energy is Robert Schmoke. Robert, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on, James.
Robert, could you tell our listeners, what is Tune Up Energy?
Tune Up Energy is actually a trademark name for a line of products we're developing to help athletes, to help them tune up their minds, tune up their bodies, and tune up their game, whatever sport they play. So in the same way, if you were entering your car in a race, you would tune up the engine, right?
Of course.
Or carburetor, fuel injection, spark plugs, whatever. So if you're an athlete entering a race or competition, you should, in the same token, tune up your mind and your body to perform better, right?
Makes sense.
So that's exactly what our products are designed to do.
So how did it get started?
Well, I'm actually in the golf business, and a customer of mine sent me some samples of some products about 3 years ago. And quite frankly, I was a bit skeptical. Some of them had CBD in them and things. And I tried them, and after trying and seeing and actually feeling firsthand what they could do, I was convinced. So I decided to go full scale into researching and testing tons of different natural herbs and supplements in order to find an optimal, effective blend of ingredients to make up Tune Up Energy Gel. And that was about 3 years ago, and we've done actually hundreds of trials and formulations, different formulas and experiments. And finally, we're ready to launch our first product, which is called Tune Up Energy Gel. It's a 1-ounce packet of delicious drinking gel with 40 milligrams of citrus-derived CBD and 1,000 milligrams of adaptogen.
So how can CBD and adaptogen help golfers?
Well, we've got a simple equation. CBD plus adaptogens equals better golf or better sports performance, right? And CBD is actually perfect for golfers because it reduces stress and anxiety by stimulating the binding receptors of serotonin, the happiness hormone. Okay? So actually, whenever you're feeling stressed, your body produces cortisol, which is called the stress hormone. And that's why people get nervous and stressful. But with CBD, it interacts with the excretion of cortisol and releases more dopamine and serotonin, which are like for happiness and motivation and things like that. In the same vein as that, adaptogens, they're a class of natural herbs that literally help your body adapt, hence the name, to physical surroundings. And these are herbs and roots that have been used for centuries in Chinese and Ayurvedic or Indian, in India, healing traditions. And they do this through stabilization of the physiological process of promoting what they call homeostasis. Okay, so these are also designed to help reduce stress and anxiety, to make you feel great and perform very good.
Now, with it being for golfers, now originally I didn't think golfers were athletes, and then I got to play golf the other day on a LPGA level course, and I found out, oh yeah, it is. They are athletes because I was exhausted after doing that. I was definitely mistaken. Yeah, I thought, oh, this will be easy. Shoot, we got the carts, and no, we even had the carts, and I was still like, oh gosh, halfway through it, I was like, I wanted to be done, but I'm like, no, I'm going to toughen it out. And I was so tired. Yeah.
Well, that's one thing, especially but even for younger golfers, or for older golfers, recovery can be a big problem. And actually, when I first tried, I was kind of skeptical of taking a CBD product, and I first went out, and I couldn't believe the clarity it gave me over my shots. Like in golf, if you have an inkling of a second thought in your swing, you can blow your shot. But every shot, I just came back and pulled the trigger, and I sort of know my own body, how I react after walking and carrying my clubs for a full round of golf. I'm tired. Can't wait to get my shoes off. But after this round of golf, I was raring to go. I could have played another round, and I drove back home and then started throwing the rugby ball around with my son. And I was just so hyped up. I couldn't believe it. I felt fantastic. So it's really good for recovery as well. And that's really, so I became a very converted sort of person about doing this. So that's why I really went into it and trying to, develop this type of product for everyone, help everyone's game.
Now, I know folks like me and you, we're not professional athletes. No one's going to drug test us, anything like that. So, or same with my folks who use CBD for pain relief. But what about those athletes that are worried about possibly, having issues with drug tests and CBD?
Well, this is one of the reasons, after doing a lot of research and trying many, many different types of CBD, we did some CBD from Colorado, Kentucky, all over the place. We finally ended up with what they call a citrus-derived CBD. And it's amazing because it has got no relation to cannabis or hemp or THC. So it's derived from the terpenes that are naturally present in the peels of citrus fruit. This company called Pureform developed this. It's actually a patented technology called cyclic terpene assembly, CTA. And they derive the CBD molecule from the terpenes naturally present in citrus. So at the end, you get a 99.5% pure product, but it's completely free from all the legal and sourcing concerns that people might have with hemp-based CBD, and that's in particular for collegiate athletes. So citrus-derived CBD is the main thing on our product. Yeah.
Nice. So it sounds like it's one of the pure forms of CBD.
Yeah, molecularly, it's exactly the same CBD molecule as the CBD that comes from hemp plants. But it's in its pure form, it's odorless and tasteless. as opposed to sometimes you get a strong cannabis smell or taste from other CBDs. And it's perfectly free to use anywhere. And you're never going to fail a drug test. And opposed to there are state regulations against certain hemp-derived CBDs, but citrus CBD can be used nationwide, no problem.
So how do you get CBD from citrus?
Well, again, it's this proprietary technique where it's called cyclic terpene assembly. So terpenes are present in all kinds of things. Terpenes are what give pine needles their aroma.
Oh.
It gives citrus its citrus smell. It even gives lavender its sort of healing effects, calming effects, right? So they just basically assemble the molecular structure of these present terpenes to reconstruct a perfectly 100% identical CBD molecule. And they just use the citrus peels. So that's another benefit of this type of citrus-derived CBD is we're repurposing, already products from citrus farms. Cannabis farming is very resource intensive. So they say it can use up to 1 million gallons of water per acre. So this is environmentally much more friendly to the environment.
Yeah, because they can take the orange peels that they were going to not use at all. They were going to throw them away, I guess, from orange juice mills and things like that, and they can use that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And
but our CBD actually, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I understand the oranges that you get yours from don't contain any pesticides or mycotoxins or GMOs.
That's right. There was actually a company that's done some extensive testing on our products, or the Pure Farm products. It's called the Clean Label Project. And we've gotten 3 awards, or they have gotten 3 awards, this Pure Farm CBD. One is the Purity Award. One is Pesticide-Free Certification. And another one is the THC-Free Award. So this is all, it's a very good environmental kind of story. It uses less than 1/100th the relative CO2 emissions of regular hemp farming, much less water, and the energy to produce it. So it's got a very eco-friendly, ecological footprint for making this.
So it's better for your customers and better for the environment.
Exactly. Well, one thing I must add to all this, it took us actually a couple of years before we actually found this and did the research on it. And the actual source, the raw product itself, is about 3.5 times more expensive than regular hemp CBD, which is all over the place. But we reckon it's this is my philosophy for doing a lot of things. If I want to do something, I want to do it right. I want to do it the best I can, and particularly when I'm delivering a product to a customer, I want that to be the best performing product that we can get our hands on, because that's essentially what's going to pay dividends down the road. And so that's our whole philosophy in doing things.
So it sounds like originally the product is designed for like golfers and other athletes, but it sounds like there's a lot of benefits to people of all ages and backgrounds.
That's right. Yeah. Initially, I'm going to be launching it in sort of the golfing market because I've got a background there, sort of a customer base. But it can be applied to all other athletes as well. My son plays collegiate rugby actually overseas, and I'm keen to get him and his teammates going on it too. But one other feature, James, I should mention about the product is they put it through what they call a nano emulsion process to make it nano size. So regular CBD, the size of the actual molecule is 1,000 to 2,000 nanometers in diameter. Okay, we put ours through a nano emulsion process, so it comes out at about 10 to 50 nanometers. So it's basically 50 to 100 times smaller than regular CBD. Now, why is that important? It's because to make it water soluble, if it's much smaller particle, it can be absorbed faster and more completely into your system. And that's the whole idea, is to get a bigger bang for your buck, so to speak. Even on our website, we've got a chart showing the absorption rate they give people two different types of CBD, 10 milligrams of CBD. One is sort of a non-water soluble and our water soluble one. The 10 milligram serving, the regular CBD, they've absorbed 0.6 milligrams after 90 minutes. And the water soluble one, they're absorbing 8 milligrams. So 0.6 compared to 8 is like, 12 or 13 times the absorption rate. So, you're just getting a bigger bang for your buck in terms of how much CBD is in it. And I mean, our product is, we're selling in basically a 1 ounce shot, a 1 ounce gel shot packet. And it's got, in that 1 ounce, there's 40 milligrams of citrus derived CBD. So you're getting a lot of value there for, that's the whole point, is to make it do something for people, right?
Exactly. So it sounds like it's very beneficial all the way around for your future clients. That, I mean, it sounds like with the focus and the calmness and just, I mean, there's a lot of really great benefits physically and emotionally, it sounds like.
Yeah. And the main thing is to, make people perform better. I mean, that's the whole key, is to, increase your focus, increase your energy, and increase your performance. Because when you're playing any sport, when you're competing, it all comes down to, pulling off the shots or the whatever the play is that you're playing, when the pressure's on. And this is why it really helps in all those areas. It's like tuning up your car, right? You want to make it perform the best it can.
Sounds great. Robert, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Before we let you go, where on social media, where on the web, where can we find out more about TuneUp?
Okay, our website is tuneup-energy.com. So it's just the regular spelling of TuneUp. We had to put a dash in there because I think a car company has got the other tuneup.com. So TuneUp, you got to put a dash, energy.com. Twitter and Facebook will just be TuneUp Energy. And that's the name of our company, and that's the name of our brand. TuneUp Energy Gel is our new product. And we're really excited about it. It's going to be, hopefully, it's going to help people tune up. We say our slogan, Mark, is tune up your mind, tune up your body, tune up your game. So I would love it if people eventually use the slogan in the common vernacular of saying, are you tuned up today? Or ready for the game, right? You got to tune yourself up. Are you tuned up? So hopefully that will work itself into the lexicon.
Sounds great. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Okay, thanks so much, James.
Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom has products in stock and available to take home today. With 5 stores and almost 40 years in business, they are Ohio's appliance experts, and they help you to get the right product at the right price with a huge inventory. You can save 30 to 60% every day on everything from Bosch and Viking to LG, GE, and KitchenAid at unbeatable savings and in stock. Plus, Mattress Kingdom inside Appliance Factory has everything from Tempur-Pedic and Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and Dream Cloud mattresses in stock. Stop by any one of Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom's 5 Ohio locations today, or visit online at appliancefactory.com.
Thank you for tuning in to this Dream House, brought to you by Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom. We look forward